Today's lesson was Chapter 6, Lesson 10, Choosing an Appropriate Display. So all we're going to do is we're going to take all the information that we learned in the lessons before, and we're going to take a piece of data and we're going to figure out which one of those charts or graphs it fits best into. So the kinds that we're going to deal with are the line plot, which looks like that. For line plots, we usually use those when we want to see how often each number occurs. You can copy this down in your notes if you would like, otherwise just write down the part that I'm writing down. The next kind is a bar graph, and a bar graph can be used to compare different pieces of data. Usually we use it to, like I said, display and compare data. Emphasis on compare. The next kind is line graph, and line graphs we use to show change over time. And the last one we're going to use is our stem and leaf plot. And we're going to use that kind of like a line plot. We're going to use it to see how often values occur, and how they are distributed. So we're going to look at that right there. What I would do is at least copy down line plot, how often each number occurs, bar graph, display and compare data, line graph, show change over time, and stem and leaf, how often values occur and how they're distributed. Copy that down because that's going to help you figure out when we go into the problems and how we want to display them. So write that down. You can rewind if you need to, because we're going to use that right now. So the first chart that I'm going to show you is a chart that represents the number of football national championships by school. So if you look at the chart, Nebraska has 5 national championships, Iowa has 1, Florida State has 3, and Missouri has 0. Oops, I realize I spelled Missouri wrong. It says Missouri. Oops. But notice that they have 0, and that's no mistake. So let's examine which kind of display I should use. Let's go back to the notes you just took. Line plots show how often each number occurs. That's probably not going to be a good choice. Line graph, well, this isn't representing data over time, so that's probably not a good choice. Stem and leaf shows how often data values occur and how they're distributed. That's probably not a good choice. But a bar graph will be able to display and compare data in separate categories. And that's going to be where this chart will look the best. So let's make a bar graph out of that. And I'm just going to make one quick. Remember, you got to put your L. Since our smallest number is 0 and our biggest number is 5, our interval going up the side is going to be just 1s. On the bottom, we're going to have each school. So on the bottom we have the schools, and then all I'm going to do is make a bar for each one. So then I'm going to label the graph. It's called National Championships. And so let's just take a minute to enjoy that graph and how beautiful it looks. Notice that Nebraska's way up there in the clouds. You know, Iowa's got 1. It was a long time ago, so I guess that's nice for them. Florida State's got 3, so that's respectable. Who knows, they could get another one this year. And then notice, oh, there's one school at the end there that's kind of missing and doesn't have any, and that's unfortunate, but who knows? Maybe they'll win one someday. On to the next part. Let's take a look at another chart of information. In this chart we have the months on the top, January, February, March, April, May, and we have average temperatures on the bottom, 33, 37, 42, 50, and 59. I want you to pause and think for a second about which way you should represent it. Pause, write down an answer. Okay. Our answer should be a line graph because, like we said earlier, it's to represent data that changes over time. And you can see that this data starts in January and ends in May. So we're going to make a line graph of that. If we wanted to make our line graph, we would have our months at the bottom and our temperature going up the side. So let's go on to one more practice problem. This is going to be directly from your book for tomorrow's homework, and what I'm going to have you do is go ahead and do it right now. So I'm going to give you the information, then I want you to solve it in your math notebook and bring it to show me tomorrow. Okay, so the last chart, it has animals on the left and lifespan on the right. Now what I want you to do is either rewind, look in your notebook, and I want you to ask yourself, does it fit a line plot, a bar graph, a line graph, or a stem and leaf plot? And I want you to actually make that graphic, whatever it is, display, I guess, and bring it for tomorrow. Alright, that's it. We'll see you tomorrow.